How the fuck's it going, everyone? Back today with another video. So this is the one I've been building up to. It's the one I've been looking forward to preparing, to getting filmed, to kind of chatting about. I am going to be doing my top 20 albums of 2024 right here, right now. So, I have actually filmed this thing 3 times, got about half an hour in both times, and my phone storage just could not hack it. So I'll see how ballsy I'm feeling when we're getting up to like the 25-minute mark, but I might have to end up splitting this into 2 parts. So like 20 to 11 and then 10 down to 1. But we'll see. I might be feeling brave. So yeah, I'm not going to tell you what's going on in the background today. This is one that I've shown a ton. So instead, I want you guys to tell me what is going on in the background. The first person to tell me that will get their comment pinned. Not much of a prize, I know. I usually kind of pin abuse comments, like people hurling abuse at me, because I find it funny. However, this time I will pin the first person to get the band and the album title. So there you go, just a little bit of fun, just to make things a little bit interesting. So now that that's out the way, let's get into the top 20. Starting off at number 20, this is Caven out of Sweden with their 3rd full-length album entitled The Formless Fires. So, if you're not familiar with Caven, they play a sort of melodic black metal, but in a very traditional kind of typical 90s style, if you will. If you like bands like Dark Funeral, this is really going to scratch that itch. In my opinion, this band is doing Dark Funeral better than Dark Funeral did for their last album. That is praise indeed as well, because I mean, Dark Funeral didn't release a bad album by any means. This one has a ton of heavy metal charm to it, however, particularly in the guitar solos that just kind of erupt out of absolutely nowhere. And just the guitar tone alone, along with the kind of playing style, the way they kind of draw in kind of gradually, it's just so cool. It just throws you straight back to the 80s heavy metal scene, and that's so badass to hear on such a like harsh, generally kind of icy record. Much like Dark Funeral, this brings the heat as well as the frostbite, kind of epitomized by this album cover. We've got the fire, but we've got the very frostbitten, icy, frigid mountains in the background. The vocals are kind of typical screams. The drumming is sensational, really diverse and interesting, but again, in that typical style. There's nothing too sort of fancy going on with it. It's just kind of there to serve a purpose. But yeah, there's tons of great riffs on this thing and tons of great songwriting. So yeah, go and check that out. That's Caven with The Formless Fires at number 20. At number 19, I've gone with a band that I can't decide whether or not they're like popular or if they're overlooked, because I do see it kind of floating around. However, I've not seen many people talking about this one. The band in question is Dipygus out of the USA with their self-titled full-length album released through Crypt of the Wizard. So, Dipygus, if you're not familiar, plays a really modern style of death metal, but they don't use that sort of hardcore influence one single bit on this, in my opinion, or I'm not really hearing it very obviously anyway. We don't have any like yelled vocals. There aren't anything like that. There's no ridiculous like over the top obnoxious breakdowns or anything. It's just straight to the point death metal. This band has its own sound, mainly through the kind of bass tone that really cuts through the mix, straight into your eardrums. But also the guitar tone has like a really mechanical sound to it. It's not quite like Boss HM2, but it's got almost that kind of twang to it. It just kind of sounds like a machine is creating this. The vocals, I believe it's a woman on vocals, and my god, she does an outstanding job here. Really deep, cavernous bellows and growls that just don't sound like they should be coming out of a human, to be honest. Really, really cool. This thing is all centered around kind of Neanderthals and like epochs gone by, and it just is captured in the music in a similar way to like how Nile captures their ancient Egyptian theme. This band manages to kind of make you feel like you're about to be beaten to death by a mammoth tusk. It's that kind of thing. They've got a track on here called Bug Sounds 2, Megascalides australis, which I believe is the Latin name for a giant earthworm or something like that off the top of the head. But yeah, the actual music is like it's like a synth sort of thing that mimics like, it almost mimics like an 80s horror soundtrack, like those zombie films, like Zombie 2 for example. You can kind of imagine it coming off there, but it also makes you feel like you're about to be eaten by swarms of something you have never seen before and never wish to ever see. It really captures that feeling so exquisitely, and I just think this thing's wonderful. It's so much fun, and it scratches that like straightforward, literally caveman-esque death metal perfectly. That's Dipygus. What more is there to say with Dipygus? That was number 19. At number 18, I have gone with this one. So this is Stress Angel out of the USA with their sophomore full-length album entitled Punished by Nemesis. So if you're not familiar with Stress Angel, I did show this not too long ago and spoke about it, so I'm sure that kind of bullshit that I rambled in that video is still ringing in your ears. However, I'll just humour me, I'll get through this. Stress Angel plays a sort of death thrash that could have come straight out of the late 80s scene. It's got that kind of aggression, that punch, and that kind of, I don't know, that dirty atmosphere, mainly kind of brought forth by the production, but it's got plenty of kind of thrash rhythms, especially in the guitar work and drumming. The vocals are like really evil, nasty snarls, which work perfectly with the rest of the soundscape. The drumming is quite simplistic and quite samey all the way through, to be honest. It's mainly like thrash beats, but we do get occasional blast beat passages just to mix things up. This is just a really fun listen. Really memorable tracks, very, very well written, and just a great time if you like that kind of, yeah, late 80s style of extreme metal. So yeah, go and check that out. That's Stress Angel with Punished by Nemesis. My zoological itch has been scratched by this front cover, which is kind of ridiculous, but it shows one of those tarantula hawk wasp parasitoids dragging its paralysed spider victim up a branch, ready to lay its eggs inside it so its babies can eat their way out of its kind of alive body, which is totally gross. And what is more metal than nature, right? Stress Angel at number 18. At number 17, I've gone with this one. You knew this was going to be turning up somewhere. This is that really, really aggressive style of death grind brought to you by Concrete Winds. So this is their self-titled full-length album. I believe this is their third full-length album, if I've remembered that correctly. These guys are out of Finland, and they really do bring the heat on this one. This will rip your entire kind of layer of skin off your entire body, leave you kind of dripping in your muscular kind of skeleton, and it will just leave a nasty puddle on the floor of your own liquids, body fluids, and you'll wonder what the hell has just happened. You will be vaporized by this. It's fast, it's unrelenting, it's unforgiving, it's merciless. There are tons of like punk influences on this, but not in the vocals, thankfully. They're kind of somewhere between a growl and a shout, however, like a yell, not really a shout, they're not that clean, but you can't really hear what he's saying or anything, which works perfectly. The guitars are so chunky, so dense, they will have you bloodied, beaten, and just dying on the concrete. There is, I neglected to mention when I first showed this, a huge leaning of industrial music on this one. Mainly in the kind of electronic elements that they use, which just brings a huge aura of like dissonance. It feels like you are being sucked into a black hole, and again, all your skin's being peeled off as you scream in pain. You can't close your mouth, but everything's coming out of your mouth, and you just look like a disgusting bowl of salsa after it is done with you. I pretty much described every which way that this thing will kill you through your eardrums. Go and check that out. That's Concrete Winds with Concrete Winds. Now to the polar opposite end of the music spectrum, I've gone with Aurora's fourth full-length album entitled What Happened to the Heart. So if you're not familiar with Aurora, she is like a Norwegian pop artist inherently, but she is so much more than that if you ask me. She's got tons and tons of different kind of stylistic leanings that have been kind of present all the way through her career in one way or another, but this album brings them all together wonderfully. First off, her vocal range is absolutely second to none. She can pretty much do anything with her voice. She's got really high-pitched, like childlike vocals almost. She's got lower, kind of more moody vocal styles, and then her mellow, just ethereal, natural singing voice works perfectly. She's even got a bit of a Viking twang to some of this stuff, as though she's like singing around a fire whilst all the hairy bearded men are drinking out of horns and eating meat off the bone. Musically, there are tons of like acoustic passages on this one. There are lots of like dance beats, which, I mean, it just makes things so interesting. Because you go from one style to another. There's like a really pretty, serene track that will just have you entranced. And then you go into like a track that wouldn't be out of place in a nightclub somewhere, perhaps. But she does it very tastefully, in my opinion. There is nothing that comes across as cheesy, overproduced, or just like corny. Everything's just done to perfection. And yeah, I may be biased because I have loved everything Aurora has done so far. But yeah, this album is just a wondrous experience. Highly recommended if you want a palate cleanser. There she is there if you want to put a face to the name, as that doesn't really tell you very much. But yeah, that is number 16, Aurora, What Happened to the Heart. Number 15 now, I have gone with yet another cataclysmic record. Here I've gone with Ripped to Shreds, with their fourth full-length album, I believe, entitled Sanshi. So, Ripped to Shreds, if you're not familiar, is a death metal band inherently. However, there is a monstrous leaning towards the grindcore side of death metal. I say that in terms of the marauding guitars and the just blistering drum work. This, I think, is the first album where they had a full band, so this was Andrew Lee's solo project originally. However, he just does guitars and vocals now. The drummer that it is playing on here has such an enormous range of kind of talent. Particularly the ride work on this one just sounds so clever and innovative, and it just pokes through the mix every now and then when you've just been brained to death for however many minutes. Then you'll just get like a really intricate and really neat piece of ride cymbal playing, and it really just absorbs you. It transports you into this album so nicely without you getting any ear fatigue whatsoever. Andrew Lee's guitar work on this, like the solos, I mean, it's almost just death metal shred at this point. But because the rest of the music isn't super technical, the really like wanky fretboard trickery that he goes for with the solos works really well. it just, again, it pricks your ears up. Attention is drawn straight to it, and you can't help but smile, be like, where the fuck did that come from? Just badass, man. Vocally, Andrew Lee's got an incredibly unhinged vocal style. He kind of sounds like he's vomiting as he is kind of growling. It's almost like a groan or a moan and a growl mixed together. But all four members do like backing vocals on this, and it just creates a really nice like smorgasbord of different vocal styles, all in that harsh style as well. So yeah, really, really nice. Attention to detail. This is an absolutely blistering assault on the ears. That's ripped to shreds with Sanshi. Relapse Records put that one out. Next up, I've gone with a Canadian outfit this time, and this one surprised me no end, mainly because the last album didn't capture me a ton. It got a lot of hype. This is Spectral Wound, as I say, out of Canada, with their fourth full-length album entitled Songs of Blood and Maya. Nearly forgot the goddamn title there. So this is black metal, straight to the point black metal, in the Finnish style. If you ask me, it's that really high register, piercing style of black metal. You've got lots of tremolo picking going on this one. So yeah, as you can imagine, that's the higher register of like tones, if you will. Really piercing, ear-bleeding screeches that just sound like his larynx has been torn apart. Really, really nice. Again, in that like Finnish style. That's like a signature of theirs, and this band kind of pays homage to that. We've also got some sensational riff work in terms of the rhythm work on this one. Sawing guitars in, again, the most traditional sense. The opening track, Fevers and Suffering, and the penultimate track, A Coin Upon the Tongue, have two of the most memorable head-banging riffs of the year, in my opinion. It's just one of those face scrunchers. Can't help but pull the stink face when they erupt. Fevers and Suffering is like, they just start the album with a riff like that, and you're like, alright boys, I see where you're going with this. And yeah, you pretty much just get that from the onset and throughout this album. A very, very good return to form, if you ask me. A surprise for sure, but a welcome one. That is Spectral Wound, sorry. Not Spectral Voice. Definitely not that sluggish with Songs of Blood and Maya. Number 13. I've gone with this one. Out of the USA, I believe. This is Antichrist Siege Machine with their third full-length album entitled Vengeance of Eternal Fire. This is war metal, and this is the kind of war metal that will leave none of the bones in your body intact. This will macerate you until there is barely anything left and your life has been completely drained. Absolutely blistering, blasting, devastating, heavy as all hell, kind of black and death metal in its purest form, to be honest. Again, there's nothing fancy going on with this one, but they just do it so well, where they kind of transition between the blasting sections and these really kind of chugging, dense, crushing mid-paced sections that really do sound like you're being hit with a sledgehammer, and they feel that way as well. The vibrations just rattle through your entire room when you're playing this one. The vocals are like, again, like unhinged, sort of mid-register growls, I guess. Kind of growled screams. The drumming is blistering, as I say. The riff writing is astonishing. And this is everything I want in a war metal record. And it's not too long either, so it very much just turns up, decimates you and your entire family, and then fucks off again. And yeah, the place is a mess, and nobody knows what on earth just hit the room. Antichrist Siege Machine, Vengeance of Eternal Fire, out through Profound Law Records. 2 Profound Law Records releases in a row there. Absolutely killing it. Something different now. At number 12, I've gone with a German band. This is Sect with their sophomore full-length album entitled Estrangement. So this one was released through Iron Bonehead Productions, and this is a death rock project, which is like I guess like a darker version and a more lo-fi version of post-punk. So yeah, quite a different one. However, this is a band I make no secret about, absolutely adoring. Inmesh's voice particularly, it's like a low, almost mellow mumble. And he's got such a great voice, and I don't know, it just has me hypnotized throughout. It's really emotive, and it creates such a gorgeous atmosphere. And King Dude even does some vocals on this one, on the final track, Rope of the Mundane Love, if I can spit my words out. And his voice works perfectly. Kind of both got deep voices, but very, very different in style. And they work just splendidly. Some really simple riff writing, but the guitar tone just kind of, I don't know, it gives it a bit of a heavier nature. It's almost got like a doomy, sort of stonerish guitar tone, but they use it so magnificently. The drumming sounds like it was recorded in a garage, and you know how much I love that bare bones production for the drumming. It's pretty simple, but there are some really nice little fills here and there, and little 16th note snare cracks that go in and just make things a bit more interesting. A few ghost notes as well, which just, I don't know, it's all that little stuff that just subtly transforms a good album into a fantastic album for me. Sect have done nothing wrong, in my opinion, so far, and I am continuing to absolutely love what they're doing over there. Out of Germany, that is Sect with Estrangement. I am going to show number 11 and call it there, and I will do the 10 to 1 straight away, just so I don't lose this one, because that would be devastating, and I actually think I would rage quit YouTube. At number 11, I've gone with a band and an album nobody's mentioned, nobody's heard of, I can guarantee it. This is Blood Incantation, of course, with their third full-length album entitled Absolute Elsewhere. So, Blood Incantation, everybody knows them at this point. They're pretty much a household name in death metal, but they really are transcending death metal. They are just vaulting over the top of it and going to do their own thing. Cosmic death metal in a sort of Demolic / Time Ghoul-esque fashion, spitting everywhere. Inherently, however, on this one, they've really gone all out on the proggy, sort of psychedelic rock aspects, a la Pink Floyd, very, very clearly. There's lots of Gilmour-esque kind of spacey passages that really are super modest and very I don't know, sparse and hollow sounding, and they just sound like you're floating around in space. We've got some Gilmour-esque clean vocals on this one. We've got some absolutely astonishing drum work on here with hi-hat 16ths for certain building passages. There's only 2 tracks on this thing, but it does feel like a full 10-track album. There's no point on this record where you feel like you've just been listening to the same thing for the entire time. Yeah, this is an absolute celestial voyage that has deserved all of the celebration that it's been getting. Paul Riedel, I must mention, does a dazzling job on vocals again. I love that reverb-heavy kind of effect that he's got going on there. It's echoing all over the shop like some sort of interstellar being, and it just sounds absolutely fantastic. That's Blood Incantation with Absolute Elsewhere at number 11, which leaves us with the top 10, which will be coming very soon, I promise. Thank you very much for watching. That concludes that for this one. Take care as always, and I will catch yous in the next one.